So one of the problems with money and finance is that it's shrouded with confusing language and terminology, and most people that you would want to listen to that have some knowledge in the industry, obviously if we want to learn something, we're going to be reaching higher and looking to people that know more than us to educate us and teach us about these things. And the challenge with that is that almost all of them exclusively talk in technical language, financial technical language, which can be a little bit confusing for people. I mean, even myself, I don't have a degree in finance. I've taken a few courses in finance. I've been around money for many, many years, know a lot about the history of money, but technically, I mean, they're talking above my head half the time. I have to go look up some of these terms. And that's actually a good exercise, folks. Take the time. Take the time to go and, if somebody's talking about something in finance and you don't understand it, you know what? If you go and look up the terminology, what oftentimes you'll find out is that what they're actually talking about isn't as complicated. I mean, really, it's just add, subtract, multiply, divide numbers, really, when it comes to finance. So how complicated can that get? Well, obviously in some areas it can get extremely complicated, but for all intent and purpose for the average person's life, should it be? Not really. Now, that being said, you know, we're entering into an era of finance that's gotten even more extreme in its complexity. What with all the various different financial instruments and different things that are out there. And so how does the average person navigate that? Well, it's not really that easy. So what I try to do, and what I'm going to try to continue to do with the channel, is try in my best way to break things down for people so that they can actually get an analogy and a working model of different things, so that they can really get a hold of where they're at financially. I mean, we own all these. Most people own a home, for example, and they look at the price of their home, or they might often sit down and say, "Hey, I wonder what the real estate market's doing. I'd like to know what my house is worth." And so that's something I know people do, and so you look at what your house is worth and you get a number. But what does that number really mean? What does that number represent in terms of your house's relative? Because this is something I always harp about too, is that all values in finance are relative, and this is a tough one for people to get straight with. So when you for example, are researching the price of your home, and you get a number, like let's say your home is valued at $750,000 right now. What does that really mean in the marketplace? What is that really relatively worth compared to other assets, for example? These are things people never ever question. Like I hear people say all the time, well, I bought my house a couple of years ago and it was worth X, and now it's worth $100,000 more than that. And I often have to question these people. So you think you made $100,000? What does that mean? I mean, first of all, it means nothing, because unless you are willing to sell that property, what difference does it make what the number attached to it is? Now, I know you can argue and say a lot of things about that. Well, it's important because it's just nice to know, or those are all, I guess, legitimate reasons. But there's no context there. That's the problem. So anyway, that's going to be my working model going forward, is to try to help people understand that when they make these statements, or when they evaluate something financially, that they're looking at it accurately. Because without an understanding of the relative value proposition, people are always going to be missing the mark, in my opinion. So going forward with me, another thing I wanted to say is a lot of the stuff you'll find on the channel, you'll say, well, like, for example, recently I did a video showing how to calculate compound interest on a simple calculator, and just threw it out there. Now, you might be asking, well, how is that relevant to anything? How is that relevant to bullion sales? Well, it may not be apparently relevant right now, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give some simple tools and a simple roadmap. And if you look at all of the videos that I put out, primarily these first group that I'm putting out, what you'll find is I'm giving you some ideas and tools that if you assemble all of these parts, you'll see a picture start to form. And I'm not going to give away that picture yet, because I want you to go through the learning process and watch the videos. particularly the videos that demonstrate things like that, for example, like how to calculate compound interest on a simple calculator. I'll give a little spoiler alert. I'm going to use that in a future video to explain property values and relative values with property and real estate. That's coming up soon. That's probably going to be my next video, but that's going to be a little different format than this talking while driving format that I'm doing here. That's going to be a screen share video, so that'll be a good one, folks. Check that one out. I'm going to link it in the description, I think, in this video. So anyway, just to recap, I'm going to be approaching finance from more of trying to explain complex ideas and reduce them down to something simple. And above and beyond that, I like to approach a lot of things to do with money almost more of instead of technically, what's the word I'm looking for? Not socially. Struggling with this word now. Figures when you're on video, you go brain dead and you can't think of a basic word. But looking at philosophically, that's the word I'm looking for. Philosophically, I'm going to be approaching it more philosophically, because you do have to have a kind of a philosophical viewpoint, I think, about your choices of how you're going to, spend your excess dollars and how you're going to preserve them. You have to have some sort of a philosophy or some sort of, a roadmap for your life and stuff to make any of that make sense. So I'm going to be approaching the whole money thing a little more philosophically, less technically necessarily, and in hopes with the technical, the stuff that it does require a technical explanation, I'm going to be probably trying to find ways to break that down and use visual models and different things like that so that you can actually see the results of the technical explanation. Not an easy thing to do, but I'm working on it. I got a couple of good ones coming up that are in the works right now. Another little spoiler alert, I got one that's a video coming up explaining the value of silver versus gasoline. That's a good one, because we're going to use some visuals. I'm going to put some gasoline in some clear containers so you can actually see the physical results of relative values. So anyway, that's it for today. Just thought I'd put that out there. Been thinking about this thought and trying to get it on the rotation for a while now. So anyway, thanks for listening, folks. Got to do all the good YouTube stuff. Share, like, subscribe, do all that if you don't mind. Helps get this message out to other people. There's links here, there, notification bell if you want to be notified. That's down below the video here somewhere. I think over to the facing the screen, it would be over to the right below the video. There's a notification bell. And so thanks for listening, folks. Have a great day.